I want to start with something simple. You are here. That fact that you pressed play, that you found this series, that some part of you said yes to the title, tells me something about you. It tells me that something in your life has been harder than it should have been. Not because of bad luck, not because of weakness, not because there is something wrong with you. Though I imagine that thought has occurred to you. But because of something that happened before you were old enough to understand what was happening. This series is about that. About the wound that begins in childhood. About the ways it shapes everything. How you see yourself. How you love. How you work. How you move through the world. As an adult who no longer lives in that house, but carries it, in some ways, everywhere you go. And it is about healing. Real healing. Not the kind that asks you to forgive too quickly or minimize what happened or perform a recovery you do not actually feel. But the kind that begins with honesty, with seeing clearly, with giving the wound its real name before you try to mend it. That is what we are here to do. And I am glad you came. I want to speak directly to the person listening, because that person might be any number of people. You might be someone who grew up in a household that was visibly chaotic, where there was addiction or rage or violence, where the damage was clear, and you have known for a long time that your childhood was not okay. Or you might be someone whose childhood looked fine from the outside. The house was stable, there was no shouting, no drinking, no obvious crisis. And yet, you grew up feeling unseen, feeling that love was conditional, that who you actually were was less important than who you were supposed to be, that your needs were an inconvenience, that your emotions were too much, or not the right emotions, or simply not welcome. Both of these are this series, because toxic parenting does not require dramatic, visible harm. It can be quiet. It can be subtle. It can look like high expectations and not enough warmth. It can look like a parent who was always physically present and emotionally somewhere else. You might also be someone who is not entirely sure whether what you experienced counts, whether it was bad enough, whether you have a right to call it what it might be, whether you are simply being dramatic. A thought, I would guess, that did not originate with you. I want to say something to that person especially. You do not have to earn the right to take your own experience seriously. The threshold for healing is not a certain level of suffering. It is simply the recognition that something in how you grew up is affecting how you live now. And and the desire to understand it and do something different. If that describes you, this series is for you.
Let me be honest about what you are getting into. This series is not therapy. It is not a substitute for professional support. And if you are in a place where that support is available to you, I would always encourage you to pursue it. What this series is a companion. A sustained, honest exploration of what happens when we grow up in environments that did not give us what we needed, and what it takes to build that for ourselves as adults. This series is organized in 3 acts. Act 1 is about naming, about seeing clearly what happened and understanding the shape it left in you, about giving yourself permission to call things what they are, without minimizing, without exaggerating, without the endless qualification that many of us were trained to apply to our own experience. Act 2 is about rebuilding, about constructing piece by piece the things that were not built for you. Self-worth, identity, the capacity for healthy relationships, boundaries that come from values rather than fear. Act 3 is about living, about taking everything built in Acts 1 and 2 and actually inhabiting it in real relationships, in real work, in a real life that is more whole than the one you started with. This will not always be comfortable. Some episodes will land in tender places. Some of what we name together will be things you have been avoiding naming for a long time. That discomfort is not a sign that something is going wrong. It is a sign that something is being looked at clearly, perhaps for the first time. And clarity, even when it hurts, is the beginning of freedom.
Before we go further, I want to say something about the title of this series: Healing Without Apologies. The word apologies is in there for a reason. Because one of the things that makes healing from toxic parenting particularly difficult is the way it trains you to apologize for your own healing. To apologize for having needs, for taking your own experience seriously, for being angry, for grieving, for setting limits, for choosing yourself in situations where you were trained to always choose everyone else first. The family system that caused the wound often has a vested interest in you not healing from it. Not because the people in it are evil, though some of them may have done genuinely harmful things, but because your healing requires you to see clearly what many family systems have powerful mechanisms to obscure. And when you start to see clearly, there is often pressure, explicit or implicit, to stop, to go back to the way things were, to keep the peace, to not make it about yourself. This series is an invitation to make it about yourself. Not selfishly, not at the expense of everyone around you, but honestly, bravely, without the constant apology for the inconvenience of your own inner life. You are allowed to take this seriously. You are allowed to look clearly. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to want something different from the life you were handed. That is not a betrayal. That is the most honest thing a person can do.
3 things from today. First, this series is for anyone whose childhood, visibly chaotic or quietly difficult, left a shape in them that is affecting how they live now. You do not have to earn the right to take that seriously. Second, the series moves in 3 acts: naming, rebuilding, living. Each act builds on the last. Some of it will be uncomfortable. That discomfort is the work, not a sign that something is wrong. Third, healing without apologies means refusing to apologize for the inconvenience of your own healing. You are allowed to look clearly. You are allowed to change without qualification, without permission from the people who benefited from your smallness. I want to offer you one thing to carry into the rest of this series. A phrase. Simple and direct. What happened to me matters, and I am worth understanding it. You do not have to believe that fully yet. You just have to be willing to act as if it might be true. That willingness, that tentative, imperfect, showing up willingness is enough to begin. And beginning is everything.
In episode 2, we start to name what happened. Specifically, we look at what toxic parenting actually is. Not just the dramatic, visible version, but the full spectrum. What makes a parenting environment toxic? How it shows up in ways that are easy to recognize and ways that are not. And why naming it clearly is the first and most essential step toward healing from it. I'll see you there. You are already doing the work. Showing up was the first step, and you took it.